Today we are going to talk about another method to solve quadratic equations. And the standard form of the quadratic equation, which you've already memorized, is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Right? So this is the standard form, and we are going to use the coefficients a, b, and c and plug them into this quadratic formula. And the number that's under this square root, which is b squared minus 4ac, and here it's b squared minus 4ac, is called the discriminant. And why that's important is it tells us the number of solutions. So remember that when we're solving quadratic equations and when we're graphing them, we can either have two solutions, one solution, or no solution. And based on what that number is, you're going to learn that it's going to tell you the number of solutions to expect. So the first thing is we want to solve this. And you'll notice that it's not in the correct format. We have to have it so that it's equal to 0. So we subtract 3x minus 3x, and we get 2x squared minus 3x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, so that is now in standard form. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Now the first thing you want to do is you want to identify what A, B, and C are. So A is 2, B is negative 3, and C is negative 5. And for this first problem, we're going to do it the long way. And the next problem, I'm going to show you some tricks to do it with fewer steps. So we're going to fill in these numbers. So we have x equals, and remember this is not negative b, this is the opposite of what b is. And b is negative 3 plus or minus the square root, okay, of the quantity, everything that's under the square root. So b squared, it's negative 3. Make sure to put that in parentheses. Okay. Minus 4. A is 2. And C is negative 5. And this is all divided by 2a. 2 times 2. So now the next step is that we're going to simplify this. X equals, well, the opposite of negative 3, okay, is going to be positive 3 plus or minus negative 3 squared. Remember that negative 3 squared is going to give you positive 9. We have 3 numbers here. We're going to multiply them, so that's going to give us a positive number, and that is going to give us positive 40. All divided by 4. Okay. So now we can simplify it one more time. We're going to have 3 plus or minus the square root of 49 divided by 4. And this is a perfect square. So we're going to now say that we have x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 49 is 7 divided by 4. And now we're going to split, okay, because we have this plus or minus. So we're going to have x equals 3 plus 7 divided by 4. And we're going to have x equals 3 minus 7 divided by 4. And so 3 plus 7 is 10 divided by 4. So we have x equals 2.5. Or you can leave it 2.5. 3 minus 7 is negative 4. Divided by 4, we have x equals negative 1. And we go back to the original equation to check it. And so for your notes, you should show the check so that you know how to check. Okay, I'm going to expect on your homework that you're going to use your calculator to check, and I'd like to see the last statement, the last line. So here we're going to have 2.5 squared minus 5 equals 3 times 2.5. You're going to put that into your calculator. Okay. 2, don't forget the parentheses, 2.5 squared, okay, minus 5. And that gives us 7.5. And 3 times 2.5 is 7.5, so it checks. So this is what I like to see for your checks. You just have to show that last statement. Okay. So now I'm going to check the other equation. The negative 1. So 2 times negative 1 squared minus 5 is equal to 3 times negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1, times 2 is 2, minus 5. Negative 3 equals negative 3. It checks. So again, when you're doing your homework, I want to see this check statement. All right, so that is doing it the long way. And I'm going to show you on the next problem the minimum steps that I want to see when you're doing this problem. A problem with using the quadratic formula. Okay, so let's just rewrite this so you can see all the steps. 2x squared plus x equals 3. And we need to get this in standard form. So we subtract 3 from both sides, and that's going to give us 0. So we have 2x squared plus x minus 3 is equal to 0. I want you to write A, B, and C. So in this case, A is 2, B There's nothing there, so that's 1. And C is -3. All right. So now we're going to go through, we're going to use the quadratic formula. X equals, well, what's the opposite of B? B is 1. The opposite of B is -1 plus or minus the square root. And because people always make mistakes when this B is negative, just square that mentally. So 1 squared is 1 minus 4. A is 2. C is -3. All divided by 2 times A, which is 2. All right. So now we have X is equal to -1 plus or minus the number under the square root. So you can put it into your calculator, or you can do it mentally. Right? And I'd like you to put it into your calculator, make sure you do it. You should get the number 25. If you put that in your calculator, you get number 25. Divided by 4. And now that's a perfect square. So you're going to get X equals, okay, that's a perfect square, so that you're going to get -1 plus 5 divided by 4. So that's the positive side. The negative side is X equals -1 minus 5 divided by 4. And so here we're going to get X is equal to, the numerator is 4 divided by 4. So I have one solution. Here, -6 divided by 4 is -1.5. You're going to go back and you're going to check in the original equation. So 2 times 1 squared is going to give me 2 plus 1. 3 equals 3. Cha-ching, it checks. Okay. -1.5. Well, I better put that in my calculator. I can't do that one in my head. Okay, so you're going to have 2 parentheses. We're going to take -1.5 and we're going to square it, and we're going to add -1.5. Okay, and so we have that. We hit enter, and so it checks. 3 equals 3. Cha-ching, it checks. Okay, so you notice that there are 2 solutions for each of these problems. And the reason there are 2 solutions for each of these problems is this number under the square root is a positive number greater than 0. So if this is greater than 0, you're going to get 2 solutions. This number right here, the discriminant, is greater than 0. You got 2 solutions. So that is how to solve quadratic equations with the quadratic formula. And have a good day.